Welcome, everyone, back to the Enter Player 3 podcast, the podcast by gamers with kids for whoever wants to listen and enjoys doing so. As always, am your host, Josh, aka Freud, and I am not joined this week by normal co host Kraig. Unfortunately, he could not make it to the episode this week, so this will be the podcast's first ever solo hosted episode. That was a sentence. It is just me today. This is the first time I've ever recorded a podcast solo. A bit nervous about it, to be honest. I'm not sure how it's gonna go. In fact, I usually stream. We've been streaming these episodes on Twitch live and interacting with the chatters after or at the end of the show, and not doing that today because I'm already feeling a little. It's kind of weird just talking to yourself. I guess I have a little bit of practice doing that from when I do stream on Twitch. But there's always a sense that like someone out there might be listening live, and I usually do have some chatters who are like listening and watching and chatting back. And this time it's just me, so we will see how it goes. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It is January 6th in 2019. This is the first episode of 2019, the new year. It is like 9:30 at night. Doing this way too late. I should probably be in bed. In fact, I've got my 7-month-old child on the baby monitor right here to my right. There's a chance I may need to pause this episode to run up and help. We'll see how it goes. A few things I want to talk about this episode. We're going to tackle things like my personal games of the year and the very controversial, kind of like almost like soap opera type drama surrounding Ellie in the Overwatch League. Using that to talk a little bit about harassment in gaming. But before we do any of that, I want to catch you all up on my holidays. I had some good holidays. This was, of course, our first holiday season with baby girl. I learned one thing very quickly, which is once you have kids, the holidays are all about the kids. um, Thinking back, this should have been pretty obvious. I don't know if any of you have similar memories, but when I was a kid, you know, Christmas morning, most of the presents under the tree were for me. Sure, my parents exchanged a gift or two, but me and my sister had the bulk of the presents, and there was lots of excitement about watching us open the presents. My dad would be video recording. I'm doing this because, yes, back then there was an actual huge physical video recorder that he had to hold. Smartphones were not a thing yet. Gosh, I'm already dating myself. I'm only like 5 minutes into the episode, but yeah, a lot of focus on the kids and what they got, for Christmas and Santa Claus, all that stuff. So many holiday traditions are really kind of designed for kids when it comes to the Christmas season. So I probably should have been ready for that, but it still kind of surprised me when we went over to my parents and my in-laws, which would be my daughter's grandparents' houses for Christmas, and so many presents under their trees for our little baby, who is still not really old enough to even understand what's going on half the time. Although she did end up enjoying some of the toys, so it was a lot of fun, but yeah, the days of Christmas being about me are kind of over, which I think I'm okay with. I guess it hasn't really been about me for quite a while, because I'm an adult for quite a while, but still, that's jarring. But the flip side of that is that it's really fun to see my daughter get excited about things. Like she's getting really smiley and interactive now, and she'll laugh, and and she can sit up on her own and grab things and play with things. And so it's like so fun to see her get just super excited about like some new toy or something. Even though she can't really talk yet, she just makes squeaks and squeaks. Still super fun. So I'm actually really excited for next year, um, when she's a bit older and actually enjoy the holiday season a bit more, and actually understand a little bit more what's going on around her. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, that was my holidays. I got some gaming in, not too much. I did get some extra sleep in, which was really nice. I was able to take a few days off work. Um, so all in all, a pretty solid end to the year. I hope you all had a great holiday season as well. That does bring us to the first, I guess, topic that I want to talk about, which was New Year's resolutions. So of course we are in a new year now, and I made a post about this on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, you may have already kind of seen this. But for a long time now, I've refused to do New Year's resolutions. I think at first it was like I don't know, like I felt cool like not doing it. Like, yeah, this is this thing that like all these people do, but I'm not gonna do it because I don't go with the crowd, I guess. I don't know. Um, but I just didn't do them for a very long time. And I reflected on that this year. Why do I not do them? And to be honest, a lot of the times the goals, or even ideas of things that I wanted to achieve or work towards, I would end up failing at achieving and kind of just feeling down about them. And so I think that was a big reason why, even though I don't know that I was entirely conscious of it, but I think that was a big reason why I stopped doing New Year's resolutions, is because I was afraid that I would just keep failing at the things that I wanted to try to achieve. And so avoidance is a pretty convenient way of, well, avoiding failure and trying to not feel as bad about things. The problem with avoidance is that it never pushes you forward. Sure, maybe you avoid failure, but you're probably not achieving very much either. Certainly, probably not pushing yourself very hard, as hard as you could, towards the things that you want or the things that matter to you. So I decided to change that this year. This was the first year in I don't know how many years. It's been a while, guys, since I've made any New Year's resolutions, and I made some this year. So for the heck of it, I thought I'd share a few of them. The first is to try to practice gratitude at least once a day. To find something about my life, about that day, about whatever I'm doing. Find something, small or big, to be thankful for and about. And there's actually there's two very good reasons for this. One, I have enough awareness to know that I, in a lot of ways, am a very lucky person. I have a lot of things in my life that I don't need. I have a really great partner, an amazing daughter, and a job that gives me a way to provide for my family, and that in a house over my head. I mean, like, I have a computer and a microphone to even like make this, to even be able to make this podcast. I mean, how there's so many people out there that don't have any of those things, let alone all of them together. And this is an easy thing to kind of say, like I'm saying it now, like, and you might listen to this and say, like, yeah, I guess I'm kind of lucky too. I've got a house, or I've got a computer to play games with, whatever, which is nice. And yeah, I'm lucky because other people don't have that. Um, but we take that stuff for granted so quickly and forget the next day. Um, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to forget what I have, because I might not always have it, and I want to be able to enjoy it while I do. Which leads me to the second reason I want to do this, is that practicing gratitude daily will improve the way you feel about yourself and your life. And I've got science to back me up on this one. They've actually done scientific research that has shown that practicing gratitude can and will improve your mood. It can even help treat and improve depression. It's there's something powerful about practicing gratitude, and so not only is it just a good thing to like appreciate and be thankful for the things that you have, no matter how big or small they are, it'll help you enjoy life more, and will help you enjoy the things that you have. And who wouldn't want that? And so that's my goal. Even the stressful things, right? Like sometimes my job can stress me out, um, and but even something like that, it's like, well, at least I have a job that I can use to provide for my family, and that's something big. I can use some of the money from my job to buy the next video game that I play, stuff like that. Um, and so to find something, even in the stressful times, try to find, especially honestly, especially in the stress, find something to be thankful for. That's my top resolution. Resolution number 2: find a way to be active. To be honest with y'all, I'm not exactly sure what that's gonna look like yet, but I definitely want to be more physically active in my life, be healthier and stronger that way. It's a little more challenging now that I have a daughter. I can't exactly just like set her in the crib, I guess, at home and be like, "See ya, I'm going to the gym." Uh, can't just leave her, and so planning like how I'm gonna be active and what that's gonna look like is gonna be a little tougher, but I'm dedicated to figuring that out this year. And the third big resolution that I have, and again, I'm not sure how this is going to play out either, is I want to find, I'm just going to call it a side hustle here. I want to find another way, another project, I don't know if it's some kind of side job, something I can work on and work at that I'm passionate about, and that can help provide a little bit of extra money, honestly. Um, not that like not that we're in dire need of more money. It's actually not about that. It's not about like us trying like that we actually need more money or that I just want more money. But I think it'd be really cool to find more ways that I can work to provide for my family, but that will also add more variety to my life. I really like mixing things up. I like variety, and so I think it could be valuable. Yeah, to have basically another option, another way of making a little bit of money for my family, even if it's just a little bit, to kind of like mix things up in my work life. And so, no idea what that's going to be, but again, I'm dedicated this year to trying to figure that out, try new things, see what's out there, see what options are out there, and I'll keep you updated, and we'll see how that goes. So those are my resolutions for this year. If you have any resolutions, I'd love to hear them. Feel free to drop a comment on the video, and I wish you all the luck and dedication and perseverance towards what it be. All right, so we've got 2 more topics today, and I think I actually want to start with the Ellie conversation, and I'll save the games of the year for the end of the episode. So, again, if you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen a link that I tweeted out to a story around a new Overwatch pro named Ellie. There were kind of some headlines this last week because a female, I guess I should maybe revise that, an apparently female Overwatch player was signed to an amateur team. So Overwatch, I'm assuming if you listen to this podcast and you play games, you probably know what Overwatch is, even if you don't play it. It's an extremely popular game developed by Blizzard with lots of colorful, interesting heroes that you can play as. And last year, the Overwatch League was launched for the first time. In my opinion, it was a pretty big success. It held pretty solid viewership numbers, got lots of sponsors. It was a lot of fun to watch for me. I watched quite a bit of it. My wife can attest to that. In fact, I'm wearing a San Francisco Shock t-shirt right now, which is one of the Overwatch teams. It's the one that I support. So anyway, so that started last year, and there's an amateur league called Overwatch Contender, and one of the teams in the amateur league recently signed a female player to their roster. A lot of people were excited about this because female esports pros are still very rare, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that I'll get into a little bit. And so whenever a woman does like kind of like break into the esports league and get on a team, it tends to kind of make headlines. And so this made headlines, but for two reasons. One, because a woman got signed to a team, and two, because she quickly left the team, quoting harassment and safety concerns as the reason. What ended up happening was that people, almost from the very beginning, began doubting that Ellie was an actual female pro. They were doubting that she was who she says she was. There were a lot of accusations that she wasn't actually the person playing, that there was some other male person playing the game, and that she would just kind of like talk over it so that watched her streams or whatever, it would look like she was the one playing. And as a result, she was getting a lot of harassment. There was a lot of questioning, um, and like people threatening to dox her. All kinds of stuff like that was happening. So she cited those reasons for stepping down from the team. Didn't feel safe for her, and she just didn't want to deal with all of it. And amateur Overwatch teams can't really offer very much in like terms of safety for their players, and so I don't think she had a whole lot of support on that end as well. And so, honestly, I can kind of understand where she'd be coming from. So that happens. It makes headlines. Lots of gaming news organizations kind of run articles saying, "Hey, look, here is a female Overwatch pro that just had to step down from her team harassment," and then use that as a jumping off point to talk about how female harassment is still a huge problem on honestly just gaming in general, but specifically esports and Overwatch esports. Then it comes out that the suspicions about Ellie were actually true. Ellie actually wasn't playing Overwatch, that it was actually another Overwatch like amateur who was playing on an alternate account and just having a teenage girl kind of talk over the gameplay basically, so that people would think that Ellie was this real female up and coming pro. The team that signed Ellie claims they had no idea this was the case, and the people, the player, I think it's rumored that the player's name is Punisher, who was posing as Ellie, or having voice actors pose as Ellie, I guess. Apparently, they were doing this as some kind of social experiment. Is the reason that was given as to why this happened. But in any case, the suspicions were basically true. Ellie was not a real person. The woman who was the teenage woman who was talking over the gameplay, pretending to be Ellie, was just pretending. And this wasn't actually like a woman pro. And that's basically the story. So of course, Ellie left the team anyway. The team organization apologized for kind of the mess, saying they had no idea, but wishing they'd handled it. Blizzard actually commented on it themselves. They confirmed that Ellie wasn't real and was actually what's called a Smurf account, where an Overwatch pro will create a secondary account with a different name so that people don't know it's them playing. It's called a Smurf account because it's not their main account. So Blizzard confirmed that was the case. They did not confirm who was actually playing, and I actually don't even know if the teenage girl actress's name is actually Ellie. Probably something very different. But anyway, that's the story. This story feels heartbreaking to me because I honestly believe, and there's just all the evidence in the world that this is the case, that female harassment is a huge problem still in gaming. Not just gaming, but in esports. And I'll go as far as to say that I very firmly believe that all of the gender, sex-related harassment that female gamers have to deal with is one of the main reasons why we don't have as many female pros in esports. There's nothing, there's really no science or anything that suggests that like men are just inherently better at playing video games. That's not supported. And so like when you think about like just physical and mental capability, women should be on kind of equal footing with men and be able to compete at the same high level. So why don't we have very many female esports pros? I honestly believe it's because of harassment. And so, and I'll get into that in just a second, kind of what I mean by that and why I think that. But why this feels so heartbreaking to me is because this gives like an example and a voice to the harassers themselves. So I've seen some stuff online where people are saying like, oh, like, news outlets are just trying to make this like another example of sexism when it was never about sexism, and that was never an issue with this case. Like people were rightfully suspicious, and look, like they were right, like they should have been suspicious, and the suspicions had nothing to do with her being a woman, had everything to do with how quickly she like appeared out of nowhere and all of a sudden was one of the top amateur pros. That's really suspicious. How come we've never heard of you? That kind of stuff. And I will say this: some of this, whoever had suspicions based on how quickly Ellie kind of like burst into the pro scene because of how quickly that happened, sure, I'll allow that some of those suspicions, maybe a lot of them, did not come from like a place of sexism or discrimination. But the intense harassment that she received afterwards absolutely did. Um, and that's the issue, is that whenever there's a suspicion, people immediately use that to harass and attack before any kind of evidence is even borne out, before they even know if they are right or wrong. Um, and I think a lot of people do, probably a lot of women probably do like hold back, or maybe don't like make it as far in the esports scene because of how much harassment they have to deal with. Like, so I want to use this story to actually stop talking about Ellie for a second and start talking about Gregory. Um, Gregory is the first ever female Overwatch pro to be in the Overwatch Pro League. She is a Korean player who joined the oh my god, the Shanghai Dragons, right? I think it's pretty sure that's the Overwatch team that she joined. She joined them last year, which of course, like I said earlier, was the first Overwatch League season ever, and of course made big headlines because she was the first female and ended up being the only female pro to play in the Overwatch League all season last year. I remember because I was watching the Overwatch League a lot last year, and I remember the moment when she first joined and when she first went on stage. There was a lot of support for her, which is really cool. But online, she almost immediately, I remember seeing lots of doubt and criticism. People saying that she was only there because she was a woman, and it was like a PR stunt, basically. People were saying that she did not deserve to be there based on skill, that her skills were far lower than everyone else in the league. I even saw one esports analyst, a pretty renowned esports, well, I shouldn't say renowned because he's kind of an awful human being, but CSGO fans will be familiar with the analyst Thorin, who recently decided to start covering the Overwatch League, although he has to do so from the internet because the Overwatch team, he hasn't been invited to actually be on air for the Overwatch League, probably because he is kind of a bigot and says a lot of offensive, horrible things. But he still has a huge following, and I remember him tweeting out that he didn't think, basically what I said, that she didn't deserve to be in the Overwatch League. She was nowhere close to kind of a pro level tank, which is the role that she plays in Overwatch. And Overwatch pros actually came out responding to him and defending her, saying, actually, no, she's like one of the better, if not best, tanks in the league, especially with these certain characters. She's at least top 10, which was really great to see the actual pros defending and praising her in the midst of kind of a high profile person, um, like casting doubts like that. But anyway, so she very quickly met a lot of kind of like doubt and resentment just because of her gender. No other new pros were kind of like facing that much criticism, at least that type of criticism, right away. But Gary's story starts it starts a lot actually earlier. Um, I would really encourage you. ESPN has a really great article about kind of how she got started in Overwatch, and it was when she was like, I think maybe 15, just like a younger teenager when she started playing, and she loved the game. She spent all her money going to internet cafes, living in Korea, wanting to play this game all the time, be really good with it. But from the very beginning, she couldn't find any other people to team with because she was a woman, and none of the men wanted to team with her. In fact, they would kind of make fun of her. And again, Overwatch is a team-based game. It's 6v6, and it is a team-oriented game. You have to be able to team up and communicate effectively to be successful in the game, like at all. But the amount of harassment she got whenever she would talk over the mic was so bad that she considered buying a voice-changing program for her phone, so she would sound more male. And eventually, what she did was she just stopped talking in voice chat at all, because the harassment was that bad. The second she would start talking in game, all of her random internet teammates would start harassing and mocking her. Like, think about that. This is a team-based game. You have to be in constant communication with your teammates to be able to compete at the highest level. You have to. And she could not do that for so much of the beginning of her Overwatch career because of how much she would be mocked. No one would talk with her. They would just mock her and make fun of her or harass her. And this is something that I've heard a lot just from like female gamers in general. Like I follow some on Twitter, and they'll pop up on my feed a lot. It's just story after story of like if they dare speak up in voice chat, all of a sudden people are like, oh my gosh, it's a girl. Oh my gosh, there's a girl on our team. And it becomes this huge thing, and some people, they'll be more heavily scrutinized. People will mock them. Some people will just leave because they don't want to play with a girl for whatever horrible reason. And so like the barrier of entry is just already so difficult. So anyway, that's how Geggery got her start. She somehow still, because of like pure skill basically, ended up getting a shot on one of these amateur teams, did very well in one of her first matches, and as a result was instantly accused of cheating, and then started getting death threats. Like the other Overwatch pros in Korea that she played against, again, these are more amateurs, but still, were threatening to come over to her house with a knife because of this. It's insane the amount of harassment and death threats that she got because she was successful. She actually got a shot in an amateur league and did well. That was enough. They found out she was a girl. That was it. So how did she make it? How did she go from there and all this harassment to becoming the first ever female pro in the Overwatch League? She had to have a live televised demonstration of her skill. So imagine for a second you are a 16-year-old girl who just likes to play video games and wants to keep playing video and wants to maybe even be a pro at the video game that she loves. And she has to go in front of like a live audience and play the game at like the highest level to prove that she's not cheating and that she's actually just a good player. She did that. She was like shaking, trembling. She wore like a mask, I think, for most of it because of how nervous she was. She could hardly answer questions. And she still killed it. Like there were live commentators commentating. Think about that. Like you're the only person playing, and like there's live commentators commentating on your performance while you play in front of a live audience, all just to prove that you're not a cheater. And you're 16. Like, I can't imagine going through that. The amount of pressure and anxiety she must have felt. She still played well enough for the commentators to praise her, and for the entire Overwatch community to afterwards praise her and be like, holy shit, she's actually really good. Um, that is what she had to do to make it as an Overwatch pro. She had to go through all of that. Please, someone send me a similar story of, yes, a male Overwatch pro having to go through that much just to make it. And so, like, I guess I want to tell that story because honestly, I think it's really inspiring. But it's really sad that it's inspiring. Like, it's really sad that for Gregory to become the first female Overwatch League pro, she had to go through that much. It's impressive as hell. Like, don't get me wrong. And so it definitely is and should be inspiring, like, from that angle. But no man or woman should have to go through that much, like, discrimination, harassment, and hate to be able to do what they love. She just wants to be viewed as a Overwatch player, an Overwatch pro, like anyone else. And she wasn't able to. And so, I mean, I think it's an incredible story. It's a really sad story in one sense. And it's one of the reasons why this Ellie story really depressed me, because it feels like a setback, because a lot of people who do, all of the people out there on the internet who do tend to harass or doubt anyone based on their gender just kind of got like a little ace up their sleeves. They just got kind of an extra little foundation for, or excuse really, for why they harass and why they doubt. And I feel like that's just going to set the entire community back. All because some kid or whatever wanted to do a social experiment and see what would happen if they had a girl pretend that she was this person that she wasn't on the internet. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that. That's the story. That's the story of Ellie, and a glimpse of the story of Gregory. I left out a lot of details when I was talking about Gregory. I'm going to try to remember to link the ESPN story that they did on her. It's really good. It's worth a read. And yeah, that's that. I don't think there's a whole lot else to say. I just realized that I kind of went on a little bit of a rant there and ended it on kind of a sad note. So here's the positive note. Listeners, be nice to people. Be kind. Don't, like, it doesn't matter if the person sitting across from you or in the same game with you is a man or a woman. It literally doesn't matter. They're a person. They deserve just as much respect as you would want. Be kind to people. Treat people the way you'd want to be treated. There's your positive ending. Let's end sexism, because it's definitely still a very huge thing coming from. I realize this is just a man talking about sexism and how it's a problem. What you should really do is go listen to all the women who are talking about it, because they can say much more than I ever will be able to. But this is the platform I have, so what the hell. All right, let's pivot off of that to talk about my personal games of the year 2018. Now, there's an important thing I want you to know about my GOATs, if you will, of 2018, and that is that the criteria that I gave myself for making this list, it's a top 5 list, is just the top 5 games that I played and enjoyed in 2018, which means that the game did not have to come out in 2018 to qualify. So yes, a few of these games will have actually come out in years prior, but I either just got around to playing them this year, or I continued playing the hell out of them. And so they made my top list. So that is the criteria I used. Also keep in mind that, like, I know there's going to be some games that are not going to be on my list, like God of War, and Spider-Man. And you're going to say, Josh, how the hell are those games not on your top 5? They were amazing. The answer is I don't even have a PS4, so I couldn't play them because they're exclusives. And even if the game was on a console that I owned, this was a crazy year for me. I had a kid, and I just didn't have as much time to play games this year. And so I know there's some amazing games that I missed. I'm sorry if your favorite game didn't make it onto my list. I'm sure it's still a good game. Someday I'll get to try it. But here's my top 5. So we're starting at number 5, and we're starting with Pokemon Let's Go. And there's, of course, the Pikachu version and the Eevee version. The reason this made my top 5 is because, one, to be honest, I really kind of like Pokemon. There is something that's just continually charming about the Pokemon series, and also very relaxing. I've always found Pokemon games just be a really fun and relaxing playthrough. You know, to walk through the grass, find some new Pokemon to try to catch, battle with other trainers. Everyone is really nice in the games. Like almost everyone is super nice. Of course, there's like the 2 or 3 like villain characters who are not very nice. But other than that, everyone is just like super nice. And so it's just kind of like this fun, charming game, like in this almost like idealistic fantasy kind of world, with cute, fun little monsters that you get to kind of like capture and train. And so I just love the Pokemon series in general for all those reasons. And I think that Pokemon Let's Go actually builds on the Pokemon formula in some really cool ways. Number 1, you do not have to fight Pokemon to catch them anymore. A lot of people are not going to like this, but I'll be honest, I do, because holy crap, is it a grind, and it's a boring grind to try to catch Pokemon when you have to fight them every single time. Because not only do you have to waste time whittling down their HP so that you can better capture them, which is also kind of a weird concept if you think about it. Like, I need to hurt this Pokemon so that I can capture it better. Like if you actually think about what you're doing, it's a little weird. And so kind of taking that away maybe is a good thing on that level too. But it's a video game, so like, whatever. But honestly, that was also just really boring. Like, you had to have a Pokemon in your party at all times that had the false swipe move, which is an attack that would never completely faint or knock out a Pokemon. Because if you knock out a Pokemon, you can't capture it for some reason. Which again, kind of makes 0 sense. You can only capture a Pokemon if you've injured it but not knocked it out. Once you knock it out, you can't capture it. It's just weird. So, but like, just the gameplay mechanics of capturing Pokemon itself was a pretty boring grind, and they eliminated a pretty decent portion of that. Some people won't like the kind of like throw mechanic that is new in the game, that you use to capture Pokemon, which is fine, but I still think overall the formula is an improvement. Second thing I really like about this Pokemon game, there's no more random encounters. Holy crap, is that nice. You can actually see the Pokemon running around in the grass. And then if you see a Pokemon that you want, like, I don't know, a Charmander, you just walk up to the Charmander and try to catch it. It's literally that simple. It's so, not only is it super nice and convenient in a positive way, but it also makes the world feel so much more alive to be walking around in the Pokemon world and actually see wild Pokemon running around. Like, the world feels so much more alive, and it has so much more character as a result, that it's just a win-win for me. So those 2 reasons, I think, are really the reason why I've really enjoyed Pokemon Let's Go. I did get the Eevee version because Pikachu, as charming as Pikachu is, a little overhyped. All right, we've had a lot of Pikachu over the years. Eevee is an adorable character who can evolve into like 8 different amazing other kinds of Pokemon. So I think it's Eevee's turn in the spotlight, in my opinion. So I went with the Eevee version. All right, so that's my number 5. Number four, I'm actually forgetting which one I put at number four. I think it's, yep. Number four for me is Destiny 2 Forsaken. So the Forsaken part, I think, is probably the important caveat here because anyone who follows Destiny knows that Destiny 2 had a horrible launch last year, and for most of 2018, I would say probably at least half 2018 was not a good game. Now, I actually still continued playing Destiny 2 off and on throughout the entire year, even the months where it was pretty bad, um, because I've just always enjoyed Destiny. I've played Destiny since the one beta, before the game even before Destiny 1 even came out, and so played a lot of Destiny in my day. I really do like the game. The gameplay itself is fantastic. It's just the systems in the game that can be really depressing, and kind of zap it of a lot of its joy. But around the halfway point of this year, Bungie finally started turning this ship of Destiny 2 around, and with the launch of Forsaken, they really delivered a very quality type of game. It's hard to describe what kind of game Destiny 2 is. I mean, obviously it's a first-person shooter, but it's also a loot-based, multiplayer-based, PvE and PvP type of game. But it's with the new Forsaken expansion, it is a ton of fun. And I honestly, if I hadn't had a baby like just a few months before Forsaken came out, that probably would have been like all I played this year. But alas, fatherhood called. But still, like if you enjoyed Destiny at any point in the past, Forsaken is definitely worth a look. Made number four on my list. Number three is Overwatch. So I warned you. Actually, Destiny 2 came out last year. When I say last year, I mean 2017 as well. So I guess a lot of my games this year games of the year did not come out in 2018. Overwatch is my number three. I continue to enjoy playing Overwatch all this year. They've added some really fun, interesting new characters. Brigitte is a lot of fun to play, even though she's kind of ruined the meta, and is kind of like a must pick in a lot of team compositions, and so some people don't like that, which I get, but I think she's still a lot of fun to play. Ashe just got released. She's a really fun kind of Western person to play. I think there was one other one. I can't remember, but anyways, new heroes, new maps, and the Overwatch League 2018, which I absolutely loved. I watched countless hours of the Overwatch League last year, and I'm really excited for the league to start up again this February. I honestly think that Overwatch is going to keep expanding. There's a lot of people saying that it's a dying game. I don't buy that for a second. I think Blizzard has a pretty good track record of servicing their games, and I think Overwatch's fan base is just so massive. There's so much love for this game that as long as Blizzard continues to develop and serve the game well, I think it'll be a fantastic game for years to come. I am hoping that the game lasts that long because I really want to see what my daughter's going to main when she's old enough to play. Will it be Tracer, D.Va? Who knows? Maybe a character yet to be announced. All right, let's go to game number two, which again, game that did not come out last year, although it was released for the Switch last year. But I played it on PC, and this game is Hollow Knight. So I actually streamed this game, the entirety of the game, live on Twitch. It was a lot of fun. Hollow Knight is a fantastic, beautiful, Dark Souls-like platformer, where you play as a little knight, a little bug knight in this underground world of bugs. And like the world that they built for that game is so lovingly crafted, from all the different character designs to the fantastic soundtrack, the art in that game, the mechanics. It's all just so beautifully and well crafted. And then pair that with a bit of punishing difficulty, This game will break you at some points because some of the bosses and some of the level design is extremely hard. But I came to love that about it, honestly. I actually wrote an article about this last year. Um, I can't remember exactly what I titled it. I think it was something like The Joys of Punishing Difficulty or something like that. Basically, the idea that when you play really hard games, games that are really hard but also fair, right? Where the game isn't hard in really cheap ways, um, but a game that is very difficult but gives you the tools to beat it. And as a player, you me, and I'll use myself as an example. The entire time I played through Hollow Knight, I always had a sense that I could beat or defeat whatever it was in front of me, no matter how hard the new boss was, no matter how confusing this new part of the level was. I always had a sense that I could figure it out on my own and eventually learn and get good enough at the game to beat whatever it threw at me. And that is exactly what happened. There were some bosses I bashed my head against because they were so difficult and really frustrating at times, but I knew that I had, with enough practice and enough play, that I could develop the skills required and the strategies required to beat it. And I did. And that is so satisfying. When games are not difficult and when games do not push you and push your skill as a player, every victory you have will be that much more hollow. No pun intended. Uh, I promise I was not planning that pun. But honestly, like your victories will be a little more hollow, a little less fulfilling and exciting because you didn't have to put as much into it. But man, some of the bosses I beat in Hollow Knight um, felt so good to finally beat because I had worked really hard for it. And there's like this sense of earning it. Honestly, I don't know. It's there's something to that, and so I think Hollow Knight, in addition to being a very beautiful um, world and well designed and crafted game, in addition to all of that, the difficulty element um, just combined to be a really great game experience. It's my number 2 game of the year. If you haven't played it, please try it and please try to be patient with the difficulty that throws at you. I promise you, you can do it, and it'll be that much more satisfying for it. I'm pausing for a second because my baby moved in the monitor, wondering if she's gonna wake up. It stopped moving. We might be safe. We're at the 47-minute mark, so we should probably start wrapping things up. So let's get to number 1, shall we? Game of the year, number 1. What is it going to be? What else could it be but Red Dead Redemption? I still don't know how to describe this game. I actually still haven't beaten it yet. Um, which some of you might say, how can you rate a game so highly if you haven't even beaten it yet? If you've played Red Dead 2, you know exactly how I could do that. This game, for gamers, for anyone who enjoys video games, honestly, Red Dead 2 is more than just a video game sequel. It's more than just a blockbuster AAA release title. It is an experience, unlike anything else that currently exists in games. The amount of detail uh, and narrative and character development that went into this game beyond any other game I've ever played in my life. And it's not even close. Not even close. Um, I honestly I don't even know where to start. Like the sound design. It's encouraged that you wear headphones when you play this game so that it actually feels a little bit more like you're in that world. And I can see why. The sound design is so spectacular. If it's raining around you in game, it sounds like it's actually raining around you. Um, the the sound of a creaking wagon passing you by, of a galloping horse, of a scurrying rabbit, of the squeak of a possum, the wind, the trees, everything sounds so real and so good that it instantly transports you to that world. And that's just the sound, the way the game looks, the amount of detail that went into every single store, every single homestead, saloon, character model, outfits, how much mud accumulates on your jeans when you gallop through a marshy area. It's just like the dirt that accumulates on your face if you do not take a bath. It boggles the mind, honestly, how much detail, painstakingly detail, went into every single part of this game. Um, and I have to bring up the character development too. So maybe I should tell you what this game is. In Red Dead Redemption 2, you play as an outlaw, basically, living in a band of idealistic outlaws, led by, I guess, an idealist. Your leader in this game is constantly kind of preaching about um, making them better lives for themselves and moving to some kind of like fantasy area where they can be free from all of this wretched civilization and you know, corrupt society and stuff like that. But anyway, the basics are you're an outlaw. You can kind of decide to be a good outlaw or a bad outlaw. The game gives you a lot of choice, but you're still an outlaw, you know, who's robbed banks, stuff like that. And you're in a band of other people. And so there's just this really large cast of characters. And each character is so thoughtfully developed and written, well written, that it just brings the game to life in a way that I've never really seen before. And the crazy thing about it is that the game doesn't actually force it on you really at all. I mean, sure, there are lots of missions where you'll go on a mission with other characters and kind of get to know them that way. But so much of the character development and interactions actually happens outside of missions, and it'll just happen around you as you're walking through your camp, and you can stop and listen and even participate, or you can just walk away and completely ignore it and just miss all of the dialogue and whatever moment was happening. You can just ignore it if you want. It doesn't have to be a part of your game experience, which again really blows my mind, because the amount of thought that they put into some of these conversations that happen between your campmates is really detailed and again very well written. Like, so I'll just give you a brief example. I was walking through my camp actually just a few days ago when I was playing, and I overheard an argument, and it was actually kind of in the distance, and I couldn't even exactly hear what they were saying yet because I was too far away. Again, the sound design, incredible. But anyway, I wanted to see what was going on, and so I just kind of walked closer. Turns out it was an argument between the cook of the camp and I want to say it was Uncle, someone who's called Uncle. Anyway, one of the other characters who is a bit older in the game, and they were having. I kind of sussed out that the argument was kind of started because the cook was talking about how rough things were when he was in the Navy. He's always talking about being in the Navy. Other players of the game will know what I'm talking about. The cook just can't shut up about his time in the Navy. But anyway, he was talking about how rough it was out there and how much hardship he had to go through when he was in the Navy. And the other guy was saying, "Oh, come on, it's not that hard. How hard can it be?" That was his point in the argument. So finally, Uncle spits out, "What would it be as hard as arriving in a brand new city without any parents?" And the cook just shuts up and then slowly walks over with a bottle of booze. Cook also drinks a lot. Slowly walks over to the table that Uncle was leaning against. He leans against the table next to him, hands him the bottle, says, "How old were you?" Responds, 9. And then kind of proceeds to slowly tell the story of growing up on the streets with other homeless people that he couldn't trust, that didn't treat him well, that would take advantage of him, and that was his life for years until I believe, if I remember correctly, he met up with Dutch, who's the leader of this kind of outlaw gang. Um, basically found someone to take care, who would take him in, take care of him, give him a position, give him a life, whatever life that was. And the cook, is kind of like, shit, man, that must have been really hard. And, um, you know, kind of like conceded that he wins, I guess. Like, I don't think he said it quite like that, but they ended up having this like heartfelt moment out of an argument, um, in a very like real, like emotional, tangible way that it gave me as a player so much insight into the backstory of who this fellow outlaw is. This person that I've gone on missions with, who's been in my outlaw gang for the whole game so far. I had no idea about any of this, like what he went through as a kid. And this entire interaction was completely optional in the game. I could have just walked by, maybe and just ignored it, gone on my next mission. Maybe like if I was kind of like out of just somewhere else in the camp, out of earshot, I might have missed it entirely. But because I happened to hear an argument in the distance and then happened to decide, walk a little closer, I heard the whole thing. It was motion capped extremely believably. Like, they actually designed not just dialogue, but animations for this whole encounter. And that's just one little example. I kid you not, like dialogues, conversations like that are constantly happening all around me between a whole host of characters. Every time I'm in my camp, every time I'm in some city with strangers, like stuff like that is always happening, and it's just it's incredible. And so that is just one snippet of why Red Dead Redemption 2, my number one game of 2018, and it is why I recommend it. I recommend that you play it if you are a fan of video games or video game storytelling at all. Because even if this game doesn't seem like your type of game, it is because it is such an experience unto itself that is currently unparalleled in the gaming world, in my opinion. And I don't think it will be matched for probably years to come. Because of that, it's worth your time to at least try it out, um, see what it's all about. So yeah, there's my top 5 of the year. Please, I'd love to hear what yours are. Leave a comment. Tell me what your top 5 are. Tell me why I'm wrong if you think I am, and what games I missed and what games I should play. I think a few of you might be surprised that I didn't put Smash Brothers Ultimate in my top 5. And the reason for that is honestly mostly because it came out so late in 2018. So it came out in December of 2018. And while yes, I have the game, and yes, I am loving the game, I still feel like I haven't played quite enough of it to kind of put it in my top 5 for the year for me. So stay tuned, because if I'm still doing this podcast in a year, it might make my 2019 games of the year. That's why I didn't make it into my top 5 this year, or for 2018. Okay, I think that's the cast, guys. I managed to talk for almost an hour. I am feeling incredibly self-indulgent right now. And that's on top of hosting a podcast, which is already kind of a self-indulgent activity if you think about it. But I guess a lot of what we do in life is that way, isn't it? Anyway, if you made it this far into the podcast, I thank you, because an hour is a really long time to hear me talk about video games, no less. So I thank you. This is the third time I'm going to say it. I promise it's going to be the last. If you liked this at all, it actually helps a lot. 1, for you to like the video, and 2, for you to comment. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what you didn't like. If you have any helpful criticism, I'm open to that as well. We just love hearing from you all, and so hope to hear from you again this week. And the plan is to be back next weekend with Kraig in tow so that you don't have to hear me talk as much, and hear a little bit, well, hopefully quite a bit of Kraig's lovely voice and opinions and thoughts as well. And so the duo should be back next weekend. But until then, I've been Freud. This is the Enter Player 3 podcast. I hope you have a great week. Practice some gratitude. I'll see you next time.